Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. Well, Prime Minister Donald Tusk joined European leaders in Armenia. He confirmed Poland's upcoming defense treaty with the United Kingdom, another step in Warsaw's expanding security partnerships. Now back home, attention is turning to Defence24 Days, which begins this Wednesday at the Stadium Narodowe and gathers major defense and security stakeholders from across the region. Now, to assess the broader implications of these moves, we're joined in the studio by Jacek Raubo, Director of the Defence24 Analysis Unit. Good to have you with us. Welcome back.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
So I want to begin with what's going on right now. So many defense issues at the same time. But let's talk about first this treaty. Now, apparently between the UK and Poland, Prime Minister announced this, Tusk, yesterday in Yerevan. It's going to be signed on May 27th. What can we expect out of this? How important and significant is this treaty?
I suppose we need to expect three different pillars. The first one is, of course, strengthening the partnership inside this political area, because this is the element of signalizing to enemies, but also to our friends, that we are able to congregate at different pacts and different treaties, which are strengthening partnership inside NATO, but also in this European area, because we need to have this kind of a balance between the bilateral relation and multilateral relation. This is the first pillar and the first field. The second field will be much more practical. United Kingdom is reversing their approach toward eastern flank and northern flank. That's why they need to have a strong partners here. And I think Poland is playing a vital role in this global partnership of United Kingdom, and they're planning to strengthen potentially their role here when we think about JEF initiative, when we think about their commando forces in this far north. And also, we need to remember, and we need to be very appreciative of the UK presence as a partner in NATO battle group. Mm-hmm. They are serving alongside the American battle group, where US is, of course, the framework state, but United Kingdom is participating in that. So this is the practical military. So maybe more maneuvers, more lessons learned, sharing, and more this practical side. And the third thing, and here I think there is an opportunity for both sides, win-win situation potentially. UK is offering a large-scale produce of military equipment, and they are very well in some of the areas where we need to have also our own military production. So I think it's a great example of partnership on the different fields and different levels. So that's three pillars.
You mentioned also this partnership. I'm just reminded as well, there's already a joint also project between Poland and UK building a new, I think, naval vessel as well. Now, this treaty is fairly new. There's already one that Poland has with France. There's going to be apparently another one with Germany and Poland. So can you see this? Just give us your take. Will we see more of these integrated combined defense projects now as a result of these?
I really appreciate that we are making some kind of a strengthening our partnership with the most important critical players in Europe. Also, right now, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, and also Sweden. We need to watch carefully what they are doing because they are partners. Not only when we think about the NATO level, but also when we think about the bilateral relationship. That's why it's a very optimistic sign. Of course, as a support for the major core of our partnership with United States and inside NATO.
You also mentioned this with Jeff, with this northern tier as well. Canada also involved more and more. What does that say also about Canada's involvement with Polish relations?
Great point. We need to remember that Polish troops are serving inside this battle group in Latvia, where the Canadian commanders are the response force for building this framework. That's why I think Canada is a great player here. And they are also reforming their approach to military issues. They understand very well that this is not the time for the cutting levels of troops or cutting level of their equipment. In Canada, we have a very assertive government right now. They are planning to enlarge their force, and it's a great opportunity for us when we will be able to build this bridge between the Canada and, for instance, our region. I'm talking also about the Baltic states. I'm talking about Nordic states, and also Poland can be a kind of a pivot for construct this synergy between between the Canadian side and our European partners.
And also, speaking of opportunities, Jacek, I'm looking also at these EU loans, these safe loans. We've been talking about a lot of this. This seems to now be going ahead for Poland. I mean, soon to receive, I think, over 6.5 billion euros. Tell us, remind us again, and the viewers, how critical that is and how much the defense industry in this country, in Poland, will benefit from this.
I suppose our assessment need to be very careful, because every time when we think about the money and some strengthening this budgets toward the new threats and challenges, when we have this military production, we need to be very patient and we need to be very careful. Unfortunately, we cannot be, because this pressure from Russia, this pressure from outside system is very visible. But still, here I'm still waiting for some major facts. Of course, this is the opportunity. This is the challenge. So we can have some pluses and we can describe some minuses of that. But this is opportunity, and we will see the practical side. And I'm really careful with any kind of a strong assessment that's a game changer or this is not a game changer. We need to be very careful.
So, then I want to be careful in my next question as well. We've heard also that the United States will reduce these 5,000 troops from Germany. I know that the Deputy Defense Minister of Poland was kind of hinting at this yesterday. They may be coming to Poland, we're not sure. So practically, in your mind, you're the military expert, these 5,000 troops, how much of a, let's say, how much does it impact deterrence against Russia? Where could they go? How do you see the latest announcement?
I suppose the best deterrence is lying somewhere else. So if we are watching the US present here, we need to watch carefully the construction of their bases. And here in Poland, we see enormous actions from 2020, for instance. This is the first indicator. The second indicator is that how many of American troops can come here in the time of crisis. So this 5,000 of permanent troops from Germany, it's a very strong message from the political point of view. From the military, I'm pretty sure that European commanders from the United States, mostly from US Army, they want to have more troops here in this area of responsibility. But on the other hand, US is signalizing for years that they will change and they will modify the posture of their armed forces around the world. From the political side, it's a strong message. Okay. From military, I'm much more careful with describing it as a, I don't know, major withdrawal. You need to remember, and we need to remember, that this kind of permanent bases have been built during the Cold War. So most of them, like in Grafenwöhr, they are very deeply inside Germany, and they are much more connected with the situation we had previously during the Cold War. Fill the gap was the key element for understanding potential battlefield of World War III. Right now, when we think about the Baltic states, when we think about Armenia, when we think about Black Sea, Baltic, Poland, etc., there is a new dimension, and they need to be much more flexible. And I think, for instance, Powidz or Poznań, it is providing us a clear answer that US is constructing this new flexibility in the context of potential threats much more deep in the south, in the east of continent.
You mentioned Fulda Gap. Let's move the Suwałki Gap. I mean, that's something we're looking at also crisis-wise, Russia. Tell us, what do you make of this ceasefire now apparently being announced between the Ukrainians and the Russians? Just get your sense of it, and also very curious about what you sense of Russia, namely Vladimir Putin. We've got the military coming up, but what do you make of the ceasefire?
I suppose Russia will never accept situation that something is coming from outside, even from United States or from China. So they will try to present any kind of a solution, even a temporary solution, as action from the Kremlin and offer from the Kremlin. That's why I'm a little bit skeptical about this ceasefire, which will be very permanent and I don't know, cover, for instance, May parade in Russia. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure that right now it's a big loss of Russian ideology, that they are not able to present all of their equipment, all of their military presence during this May parade, and there is a lack of high-level representations like previously. So maybe they will be much more open for a temporary or maybe some kind of a working ceasefire that Ukrainians will stop some drone attacks against mostly Moscow, but I'm talking also about other cities where Russia is presenting the same kind of parades. And I think we need to accept that Ukraine is also under the constant pressure, not only from the, I don't know, US or Western states, they are supporting them, but also from China, for instance. I'm pretty sure that right now China is also watching carefully what is going on in this context of the Moscow parade. For them, it's also very important, not only in this partnership with Russia, but also as China as a moderator of some kind of actions.
Okay, so we'll have to be watching it. Now, there may not be a lot of military on display in Moscow, but there'll be a lot of military displayed and talks of it at Defence24, a conference that's kicking off tomorrow on Wednesday. You're involved in that. So just give us a brief overview what this conference is about, the main talking points, the themes that are going to be discussed there starting from tomorrow.
Truly, this concept is that based on the three different perspectives. First, to congregate people from the different dimensions, from academia to industry, from industry to military, from decision makers to some practical side of use of armed forces. Then to present Poland as a vital place for talking about the eastern flank and the cooperation with the northern and southern flank. That's the reason we are inviting some experts from the different European areas. And the third thing, our own actions. Poland is a critical player for our neighbors, but also we need to think more about our own armed forces. And this is the reason that there will be a lot of modernization panels and a lot of discussion about the doctrinal changes. And also this Defense 24 Days is connected with InfoSecurity Day. So InfoSecurity is covering some non-military issues like law enforcement or intelligence services. So this is the synergy, this is the signal that we are trying to overthrow some threats we are dealing with.
All right, so synergy, and we'll be there, of course, to cover it. Defence24, we're going to be looking forward to that. Jacek Raubo there, Defence24. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for joining us, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.